Well, thank you, uh, Toastmaster Wei. Welcome, everybody. It is great to see you here. And the first thing that I'm going to ask is, are there any guests today? No. Okay. So with that, uh, since we don't have any guests today, I'm going to kick off things uh, with our indicator. Do we have an indicator today?
I'll be indicator.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our indicator, Jose.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. This is another meeting with Toastmasters. Today is May 12th, and I would like to express my thoughts on why I picked this topic for our meeting, inspirational moments. It was actually as a result of SpaceX when they finally did their 10-kilometer test and was able to land the Starship in one piece, right? They've tried 4 times already. It was years and years of development, a lot of frustration, a lot of risks, but SpaceX was able to do it. So Elon Musk is in such a way inspirational. And so I put it in perspective and I thought to myself, well, what is inspirational for me? I noticed that even simple things such as the the dusk of sunlight, the dusk of the sun on the horizon of a beach is inspiration for me. Being alone is inspiration for me. So I noticed that inspiration can be tailored. It's different for every person. So in this meeting, I would like us to define and know more about our become inspirational moments because they are motivational, they are inspirational. So find inspiration in a lot of things, the things that you see, even in something massive such so important such as something that happened in SpaceX, and as also in our simple day-to-day lives in our personal experience. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, uh, Jose. And now I'd like to introduce our Toastmaster of the day, Wai Ming.
Oh,
Oh,
I
I'm
will
sorry,
be. I
Jose.
will be. Yeah.
Jose. Sorry.
So we won't have. It looks like for the lineup, we just to make sure that we understand, everybody understands. The first speaker will be Zanya. Second one will be Georgie. We'll wait for Georgie. We may, for this meeting, we may skip Georgie if she's not in yet, and then we'll have Wai Ming. They'll be our speakers, and then the evaluator. I had it listed as Louis will be the first evaluator. Second evaluator is Hannah. She's also not in yet, so we'll wait for her, hopefully. And then Godam. Godam will be the third evaluator. So the second speaker and second evaluator, we may delay it. We may make them. We may have to make them the third. So we'll go through the different roles. We'll skip over. We don't. We won't have Hannah. So okay. We just have to temporarily put in a counter for now. So who would like to be a counter?
I can be accounted.
Yeah, you could be a counter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So thank you, Jose.
Uh-huh.
As
And
our
then,
counter,
yes, go ahead.
my job is to count the number of ahs, and other kinds of filler words that you may use. Filler words can be like so, okay, very, anything that you do repeatedly as a means to think while you're, but just during your speech. Once I've recorded them, I will give a report at the end of the meeting to tell us how we do. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you, Haroon. Thank you for for volunteering for a while for now. So we'll also next have our timer. Our timer will be Wai Ming.
Yes, Mr.
Thank you, Wai
Toastmaster,
Ming.
fellow Toastmasters, I am the timer today, so I'm gonna operate this clock, which is in one of the squares in your grid view. And I just want to confirm everyone's speeches. Zanya, is your speech 5 to 7 or a different time?
Yeah, so my speech is 5 to 7, but we can't see your clock.
Oh,
Oh, just kidding. I'm blind. I can't see your clock.
you can't. That's good. Thank you. So at 5 minutes, the green light will come on, 6 minutes, the yellow, and at 7 minutes, the red light. And the speaker has 30 seconds to finish. That's for Zanya and my speech. And hopefully, when our other speaker shows up, then it will be a similar time. In the evaluation, it's 2 to 3 minutes, and table topics 1 to 2 minutes. I'll report the time at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you, Wai Ming. It looks like for your timer, Wai Ming, you just have to turn on your video, and then later when it's ready.
You're not
So-
seeing the time?
I don't see it. I see just the videos. Oh, the video's off.
It's one of the grid view. No, you don't see it?
I mean,
Oh, it's-
3 videos. He's got his face, his timer, and then
Oh, there's another one. There's another one.
Yeah, there's a third one.
you.
3.
Uh, oh, there it is. Okay, I see it now. Okay, so we'll next have our word master. Gautam is our word master.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Toastmaster. So the word of the day today is circumscribe, meaning restrict something within limits. For example, their movements were strictly monitored and circumscribed. Thank you.
Mm. Thank you, Gautam. Okay. Our next that's duty master is the grammarian, which is Louis.
Yep. Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters. As grammarian, it is my responsibility to pay close attention to all speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll take note of any improper language, as well as any outstanding words, quotes, sayings, or thoughts. I'll give my report when called upon near the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Louis. As you can see in our meeting with Toastmasters, it's not just circumscribed to simple ahs and words. We also do a lot of grammarian evaluations. So we'll go to our bell encounter, which is Haroon.
Haroon,
Oh,
you're
you're muted.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
As bell counter, my job is to count the number of votes, tally them at the end of the meeting, and we will all vote for the best speaker, best evaluator, and best table topics, and I'll report back at the end on who the winners are. Hannah or myself will provide the link that will appear in your chat window momentarily.
Thank you, Haroon. And Haroon will also be our video master.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. As video master, my job is to record the proceedings of the meeting. And once the meeting is over, I will upload this to a private YouTube channel. If you do not wish to be recorded, please let me know so that I can pause the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. And we'll go back to our counter. Our Hannah is here. So Hannah, would you tell everybody your role as a counter? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster Jose. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm going to switch to phone audio in a second. But I will be counting filler words, just as I said, ums, buts, and so's, repetitive words, double clutches, stuff like that, and reporting at the end of the meeting. Try your best. So do it your best. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, for the two members that just came in, our word of the day circumscribed, that will be in chat. And so I'll go through the speaker sequence again. It will be Zanya, Georgie, and Wyming. The evaluators will be Louis, Hannah, and Godam. So Hannah, you'll be the second evaluator. You'll be evaluating Georgie. Okay, so we now go to the prepared speeches. They're all set to 5 to 7 minutes. Am I right? That's correct. So our first speaker will be Zanya. Zanya has given us a lot of insightful speeches about life and some of the intricacies of her personal experiences. And today will be uh, a new iteration of her previous speech on getting what you want. So her title of speech is What Do You Want? Let's raise our hands for Zanya. Thank you.
Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. As Jose said here just now, what I'm really looking for is an attempt to understand what it is that I want and how to go ahead and get that. This really came to fruition for me when I was in college. You see, I just gotten my mechanical engineering degree and I had done really well in my classes, but it became evident to me that what I really wanted to do was not mechanical engineering. Despite the fact that I understood it and that it would be a relatively safe and well-paying job coming out of college, it wasn't the thing that was getting me up in the morning. And so I started on a journey trying to find what it is that I wanted and how to get there. And I'd like to share with you my experiences today along that journey. The first thing I found, and it was surprisingly difficult, was that I needed to more clearly define exactly what it is that I wanted. You see, right when I began this journey, I started looking for something that wasn't mechanical engineering. And as you can imagine, there is a broad range of material that shows up in a job search that isn't mechanical engineering. Everything from being a seamstress to a graphic designer to a movie star, all of which are jobs I was not qualified to do. So I needed to be significantly more specific in defining what it is that I wanted. And I found that these 3 questions to define your desire have been most effective. The first is understanding what it is that you do actually want. For me, I was looking for a fast-paced job with lots of human interaction. Defining when you want it by, so that way you understand the urgency and how much focus you need in order to reach that goal. For me, it was by the end of the year that I graduated in. And then finally, why do you want this thing? Again, for me, it's because I wanted an engaging job where I wouldn't get bored. That was my biggest complaint of my engineering internships and my engineering jobs, is that they were so repetitive and it was so much documentation. I needed something that moved faster. Now, I want to take special note to call out that what I don't have listed on the screen is how or where. The goal with this exercise is to understand what kinds of things you're looking for without restricting yourself into a particular path. It requires flexibility in order to go out and see, what company is this the right company for? If you're restricted to a path, it becomes significantly more difficult to do that. And certainly how is something that you should discover along the way. I started refining my searches, really being more specific about what I wanted, but it wasn't enough yet. Which brings me to step 2. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Or in the words of Shelley Ambitu, Fortune 500 CEO and author of Unapologetically Ambitious, tell everyone what you want. Her biggest piece of advice is to make sure that everybody knows what it is that you're chasing after. That way, as you're chasing this goal, other people can help you along it. And having put this into practice, I think it's a fantastic philosophy. It does a couple of things. First, it holds you accountable. If everybody around you knows that you want to learn Spanish, when somebody comes up to you and tries to talk Spanish to you, it becomes really obvious whether or not you're achieving that goal. The next thing it does is it makes them accountable. If every time you see your manager for 6 months, you mention to your manager that you're interested in getting promoted, you want to make sure you're on track for it and you want a list of things that you need to do in order to do that, by the time you get to your year-end review, You and your manager have already agreed on what you did or did not have to do in order to be promoted. And it's very obvious if you're never going to get promoted at that company and it's time to move on. Walking into that meeting, you already know. And the last thing this does, telling everybody what you want, is it lets your network work for you. Now, I'd like to spend a little bit more time on this point because I feel like I get a lot of pushback on it. People say, Zaina, networking, is slimy, or like I don't want to use my friends. I'd like to try and provide a reframing for you. People want to help you. It makes them feel good, important, well-connected, friendly, and valued to know that what they did really mattered to you. Imagine if a colleague came up to you and said, hey, I'm trying to learn this skill and I know you're an expert on it. Would you be willing to help me out? As somebody who has asked a lot of colleagues for help like that, I think 98% of people would say yes to that question because it's exciting to them to know that what they did mattered. When you're asking somebody to just listen to what it is that you want, the ask is even easier. You're not asking them to look for that job for you. You're not asking them to do anything. You're just informing them that you're looking for a VP of marketing position. But then when your colleague's wife hears that a VP of marketing position is opened up in Minneapolis, you know about it. It's the easiest way for somebody to help you. Allow other people to help you. The last and potentially the most difficult of these is to follow the paths that appear. When I was on my search for my new and more exciting job, I had a friend who mentioned that they went into consulting. They thought it fit the criteria I was looking for. But I'd never looked at consulting jobs before. I had no accounting background. And it took quite a bit of work in order to gain those skills and do the trainings that were required for them. And so I don't want to push over the idea that following the path is a lot of work. I'd like to say, ask and you shall receive a clue. No one's going to hand you the VP of marketing position, but they might tell you where that opportunity sits. There's a reason why it's called chasing your dreams, not sitting in bed and waiting for your dreams to come to you. But by the time you get here, once the opportunity has come to you, the path to get to where you're going has become suddenly more clear. And the hard work suddenly feels like it has purpose and direction. I hope you found this to be helpful, as I found it to be helpful along my path. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Zanya. Very insight, very good points on how to find your career, find what really fits for you. Again, give Zanya a quick feedback. Let's spend a minute or so giving her feedback on her speech. Send her a private chat. Thank you. Okay, we can move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker will be Georgie. She has a special project, and I just put a general topic on terms of what her project is, which is a social event she's trying to organize. And I'm looking forward to her most recent update on how the project is going. And she can define it some more when she actually goes through her introduction and the rest of her speech. Let's raise our hands for Georgie.
Okay, before I start, what is the word of the day? I kind of missed that.
Yes, the word of the day is circumscribe.
Circumscribed.
Circumscribe.
Thanks.
Okay. It'll be in chat also. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Today I'm going to give an update on what's going on with our planning for our online social. As you guys know, I have sent out 2 forms in the past few weeks to get feedback from the members about what sort of activities they would like. I got a pretty good feedback from the first form that I sent out, and that one helped to define the parameters of what the online social could be. That asked people what they were interested in doing as an online social type event, including what activities they've already done and other things that they might be interested in trying. I also asked them about what tools they had available for them and what they've used with those tools. The second form I sent out was to help define things more exactly. Based upon the feedback from the first form I got, it came to the conclusion that the best way to start with an online social would be to go simple, which is to begin with an online watch party using something like a third-party free service like Screener, which would allow us to all watch the same video content online. So now comes the big questions: when to do it, and what exactly should we all watch together? Those 2 questions. I thought at that point that it might be simpler now that the parameters have kind of been defined. I sent out the form asking for information on what would be good times and content, but I honestly did not get much feedback back from the users, from the members. I was a little surprised by that. I'm thinking that maybe there were 3 possible issues for why that might have happened. The first, probably everybody's busy. This is not a good time of the year to ask people to do additional work on top of what they're already doing in their lives. Some of us would like to pay our taxes so we don't end up in jail, small things like that, among other things. So that could be possibly the issue in getting the feedback. Now, a second issue might be the concept of what is called overchoice, or the paradox of choice, a book written by Barry Schwartz. Perhaps you guys have heard of it. The idea is that sometimes too much choice is actually mind-numbing. Perhaps you could call it analysis paralysis, where you can't make a decision, or you're just overwhelmed by the choices. Whenever I think about this, I always think of 2 different examples in the modern day. In the United States, we have multiple political parties, but the only 2 that people really seem to know anything about are the Democrats and the Republicans. Everybody just kind of sorts themselves into those 2 parties, or they don't get into a party, or they get into one of the tiny, tiny, small third party options. This is also shown in the modern day with things like computer systems. For example, most people work on a Mac or a PC, one or the other. There are other options, but they tend to work on those 2 devices. And we see that even with smartphones. Smartphones used to have lots of different operating systems, but now we've been kind of defined down to Android and the iOS system, just those 2. Once again, while there used to be choices, people seem to want to just segment themselves into the major choices so they don't have to make a lot of choices. And I have to admit that while there are quite a few choices that we could do with respect to times, the potential content we could watch is actually mind numbing. The third thing I think might be happening here is that maybe people are less concerned about necessarily the time or even what content is being watched. Maybe what's more important to people is just hanging out with people and just having a light social event that they don't have to think about too hard. Maybe that's really what people are interested in, not so much the exact details on it. So maybe from their point of view, by not really expressing a strong opinion one way or the other, this is for them the easiest way to make this event happen. Given the fact that I don't have a lot of feedback on exactly what sort of times and what sort of content everyone might be interested in, I think that this might be a time for the executive decision branch of the officers to kind of make a decision about some basic times and content, and then we can look into presenting that to the members, with the idea being that if anyone does have another suggestion for content or additional content that we might want to watch, that we can certainly do that. So we're not restricting anything. We're just trying to make things easier on everybody so that the social can go as smoothly as possible. Given that, what I'm going to suggest is that I'll talk with the officers. We'll get some things defined with respect to time and content and send that out to to the members, and get feedback from them on what they would like to say. So hopefully it'll help to subscribe the different things that we could do in our online social and allow people just to enjoy the social. So with that, I would like to say that I would hope within the next week or so that I might be able to send out some information to you about the social, including the time and the potential content we might have. Once again, with the idea that everyone should feel free to let the officers know what they think about this and if they have any suggestions for any sorts of improvement at all. And with that, I will now turn it back over to our Toastmaster.
Thank you. Thank you, Georgie, for your speech. Yes, we could do that. We could coordinate possible dates and times. Okay. Let's give Georgie feedback on her speech. And as far as she made a few proposals there, you can give her feedback, direct feedback through chat in regards to those proposals. Thank you. Okay, thank you for everybody who gave their feedback. We now move to our next speaker, which is Wai Ming. Wai Ming is a longtime member, and he gives us a lot of inspirational, insightful speeches on technology. Today, his speech will be on how old. I'm looking forward to another good points. He always comes up with something, a new perspective of everything, of all the news around us. So let's raise our hand for third speaker, Whitey. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, most welcome guest. I am going to talk about this. He, not busy being born, is busy dying. Bob Dylan created this and sang it in 1964, and he's still singing it almost 60 years later. Now, I believe this applies to anyone, no matter how old you are. So I'm going to talk about that. In fact, I'm going to talk about some of these guys, not this guy, but these 10 people, and then many more of these, when you add up their ages, they average around 90 years old. And the point is they are still being born and they're still doing things. Some of them you might recognize, some of them not, but we won't be going through all of them, but we'll go through 3 of them. And in fact, compared to these other guys, Bob Dylan, Joe Biden, and Nancy Pelosi, these 3 are actually youngsters compared to them because they're born in 1940s, whereas the other ones are born in 1920s and 1930s. So by the time these were born, the other guys were already doing things and so on. So that's the point, is you can still be very active no matter what age you're at. Now, out of these 10 people, 4 of them are actually billionaires. And of course, to some extent, to live till 90 years old, you need to be financially well sound, and being billionaires will help you. And also, if you have sufficient financial resources, you can have a fairly healthy life. And being healthy is also very important when you live till 90 or older. 6 of these have PhDs, and 2 of them actually are Nobel Prizes. So being mentally healthy is also very important. To be able to think and really understand life could be very important. And because these guys are fairly famous, they're really socially connected. And being socially connected is also important. So I just went through the 4 components that I believe that one would need, no matter whether you're a billionaire or not, that you would need to stay alive till you're 90 or older. So these are the guys, but I won't go through them, these fairly famous people, but I'll talk about 3 of them. First one, Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize winner, 2002. He and another person of his colleague created the prospect theory, which is the basis for psychology as well as economics, and that's where he won the Nobel Prize. But he's 87 years old. He has retired from Princeton, and he taught in a number of other schools, but he just published another book called Noise. The point is he's still doing research. In fact, if you go on YouTube, you can still see him talk even this year, and he's very cogent and he can communicate his ideas. And so almost reaching 90, you can still be very active, and you want to be active and productive. These 2 other guys are even older. So Warren Buffett is the CEO and chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, and Charlie Munger, who's even older, 97 years old, almost 100, he's the vice chairman. And both of them appear on the internet on May 1st for 4+ hours, continuously presenting their company and answering questions, all types of questions. You ask them about Bitcoins, they will tell you that it's terrible stuff and so on, but they answer the question very cogently. And they ran the company. They still run the company, and the company is doing very well. In fact, it did so well that the stock price of Berkshire Hathaway has broken the NASDAQ on May 5th because the price of the stock went beyond the number that the NASDAQ computer could handle, 429,496.7296. So the NASDAQ actually have to adjust the computer to deal with it. The price that I saw a few days ago was 431,110. So the point is, you can still be very active and do all types of things productive, even when you are 90 years old. Another guy, not as famous, but he survived COVID and received the vaccine just recently. He's in Pakistan, 103, Aziz Abdul Alim. He was a carpenter until his 70s, so don't retire when you're 60. Go at least 70, if not up to 90. And he's married for the 5th time to his 5th wife when he's still sort of divorcing his 4th wife. His son is over 50 years old, yeah? So the point is, you can live till over 100. Now, that wasn't the case in the 1900s or earlier, but nowadays, you can target 100, maybe higher. And the point is, can you be productive? Yeah, at least I demonstrated at least there are many people who can be very productive nowadays between 60 and 90. And certainly there are a lot of people in the 60s and 70s who are still doing a lot of stuff. They're running companies, they're creating things, they're writing papers, and certainly into the 90s potentially with Charlie Munger. So just want to remind you, he's not busy being born, is busy dying. So you have to continue to do this. So how do you do it? And I give you a 5-second snapshot. You have to move physically, and you have to learn and do at the same time, and you have to practice something. And this is just a suggestion. There are many different ways to deal with uncertainty, epsilon greedy. So very quick and brief. So may you have a long productive life. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Wei Ming. Very good points on not circumscribing ourselves to just one career or limiting ourselves in age. Thank you. Let's give our Wei Ming feedback, a private feedback in chat. Thank you. Okay. We go now to the evaluation phase of our meeting. And our general evaluator is Harun. Go ahead, take it over. Harun, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Let me just set this up. So this is the evaluation section of our meeting, where we give evaluations to the speakers and let the speakers know about how they did and give useful suggestions. Our first evaluator is going to be, according to my schedule, is myself, and I will be evaluating Zaina. So
I think it was Louis, Harun.
oh,
Yeah.
Louis? Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yep.
I had in my agenda. Like,
Love them too.
You could also go if you want.
no, that's okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
Awesome. So Zaina, I think you did a very great job with your speech. It was very inspirational and applicable to everyone in this room. I thought you particularly did well of tying in the title of your speech, "What do you want?" Immediately with an example of your real life scenario and how you wanted to be originally a mechanical engineer, but it wasn't for you. And then you wanted to pivot it to something else. So throughout your speech, I think it was very clear that, you know, to get where you want in life, you have to take actions. And you made sure to repeat that point multiple times, that you can't just sit still to get what you want. And so I think the repetition really helped with conveying your message across, that actions need to be done to get where you're at. I also thought your slides were very nice. I like that you had the bullet points of 1, 2, 3, saying these are the steps that you should take to achieve what you want. The only thing is I would recommend, usually I see you using a lot of hand gestures, but this time I didn't see as much this time. So if you could just do like the 1 and then the 2, the 3, when the points come up, I think that would emphasize to the audience to direct to those points. One point of criticism, I think, is that I think you could have delved a little bit deeper into why you wanted to pivot your career from mechanical engineering to consulting, because I felt as an audience member, I wanted to understand more. What was it about mechanical engineering that wasn't fulfilling your life? What was it that need wasn't being satisfied, and why were you chasing another path? And so that's just one area where I think you could have been more relatable to the audience. But besides that, I really like the way you end your speech with the quote saying, this is like, like you can't just sit still and you need to go where you want to go with, kind of these steps. You shouldn't just like sit there. So overall, I think you did a great speech. It was very passionate, and I'm glad you were able to pivot to where you want to go. And for the rest of us, no matter what the age, we can always pivot our career or wherever we want to go in life through the actions. So thank you, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Next to go. Oh, sorry. Our next evaluator is going to be Hannah, who will be evaluating Georgie.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. And can everyone hear me? Yes, yay, okay. Good morning once again.
Hannah, we kind of lost you there.
Okay, sorry. Good morning once again, fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. I will be evaluating Georgie, who spoke on the online planning for the social event that we have coming up soon. Georgie, I think your commitment level to this project is ultimately very high. And I know you don't want to circumscribe anybody into what you intend or what you feel like putting everybody into a box, like we should do this one event. So I do appreciate your approach and being committed of gathering feedback and continue to have that pursuit of gathering feedback of what the content may be. You did do a recap of all the effort that you had put in, including a very detailed approach. And these were some of the surveys that we sent out. This was some of the information that we requested. This is how often I did this, and this is what I was requesting, including the type of requests, surveys, messages, reminders, etc., email reminders on WhatsApp messages. 3 reasons why we may have dropped the ball. I actually appreciate your approach in that as well. You did mention and reference Barry Schwartz over choices, which I think is the actually the correct answer. So I know a lot of people, myself, I do tend to overthink, overanalyze, and there are over choices. So I think scaling that down was on point. I feel like you have a good idea of what's going on here. And then I like this idea, and I wish you had expanded on it, but content and connection. So connection over content. I would have liked to just see a little more deep dive, and also just bringing back, I know in one of your preliminary speeches on this project, you had also brought in some stories about how Toastmasters before the Zoom era also had a social aspect to it, including things and events that happened outside of the Toastmaster meetings, whether it was watching a movie or going on a hike, or it was gathering at a coffee shop or gathering for lunch. So I would have liked to see a little bit more of that come in to this kind of push, this final push that you have to kind of round out your project. You wrapped up and recapped the proposals at the end, which Jose also highlighted as a Toastmaster, which you did quite well. In terms of your gestures, you always have strong gestures. I always appreciate that about you. Your tone is friendly. You showed a commitment and a high level of interest in the speech. One area I would say you can improve upon is just really selling the dream at the end. And it doesn't have to feel nasty or feel like you're having a sales pitch. But as I mentioned, selling the dream on like, this is why we should do this social event. And then this is what we're going to get out of it. We're all going to feel really connected over this content that we're going to watch, or we're going to increase our knowledge, or we're all just going to personally develop in our own careers or in our personal or professional lives. So just selling the dream a little bit more on why the social event is so important. So thank you, Georgie, for your speech.
Thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Our next evaluator is Gautam, who will be evaluating Wei Ming.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters and our honorable guest today. Thank you, Wei Ming, for the great speech. As always, you come up with a very inspirational and real fact, maybe the real world facts that's going on. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your motivation to like spend time to collect information and come up with a very inspirational topics. So your slides were very clean and it's straight to the point. There are no bullet points, so that means we don't have to read the slides. Instead, we can, as an audience, I could listen what you are saying, and the references and the current fact that you used in your presentation. That is really amazing, and that stands out your presentation, like it's very unique. And however, I have noticed few changes, maybe a few improvement. You started with the presentation and the topics was introduced by Toastmaster. I would recommend, okay, what you're going to present it, like just to gather the audience. So last week you started with the question that provokes the audiences, but this week, like you just jumped into the topic. I would say like take a step back and provoke the audience thought. Then you can start the presentation so that we know that as an audience, we will just focus on your presentation. And you you sh- it- the you would have introduced your experiences, like what's your perspective of like you have a sample of examples and you are saying about their life. Then I would like to see as an audience what's your perspective from your life, like what you are looking for. You could have introduced in that. At the end, um, the end was okay, but it's not good. That's what I felt, in the sense, like you said, to live long life, someone has to be like financially, mentally, and socially connected. So that's a summary of the speech. That's what I understand. So you could have introduced that 3 points and summarize your presentation. So like you started with a very good topic and you have the samples, and but the summarization was like it's ended like just like that. I would like to see that more emphasis on what you want to communicate to the audience at the end of the speech. So overall, the presentation was really great. However, there were some circumscribed by few changes that I just explained, but I like to see that improvement one. But again, this is really a great one. I'm looking forward to the next speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I'm going to introduce our table topics master, who is sorry. Seems my agenda, the copy that I printed out has gone, it's completely off. Our agenda is going. Georgie, thank you.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Let me pull up my questions for today. All right. And just to remind everybody that our word of the day is subscribe, which means
the circumscribe.
Circumscribe. Sorry, circumscribe. And okay. All right. So I'm going to ask things that are what kind of things that are important to you and things you think of as defining kind of who you are. So when you think about what, now that everything's starting to open up again, we're starting to, in theory, maybe leave our house. What is your number one priority now that we are now kind of able to move around again? What are your thoughts on how this might change your life in the next few weeks, maybe months? Does anybody want to answer that question? You guys are staying in the house, I see. Okay.
Thank you, Miss Table Topics Master. Yes, as I mentioned, I traveled to Texas yesterday, and things have changed. And I noticed that a lot of the landscape of the world has changed. A lot of services are there. A lot of places, new places, a lot of places coming up. So I'm very curious now because I'm more very cooped up in staying at home. I'm very curious about the world now, and I want to travel again. And I've been doing a lot of research. Like I said, it feels like the map of the world has been erased, and there's parts of it that's not there anymore. So I'm very curious of what the world looks like. So that's my priority right now. I'm looking at some of the tours, European or Asian tours. But Asia, I'm more familiar, so I'm not into touring Asia, but I like touring Europe. So I'm considering doing something like that. Like I said, the world has been redrawn, and I would like to see what's out there again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jose. All right. So this one is about, we just had a great speech from Zaina about how you can look forward to creating your goals. And then the big part was in asking other people to help you achieve your goals. With respect to this, what is a goal that you have? And what is the call to action that you would like to send out to us to kind of help you reach that goal? Besides public speaking, people, we already know that you like that since you're in this club. What else? So what is a goal you're looking to achieve? And what is it you would ask people in this club to assist you with that goal? Any volunteers? Okay, Gautam.
I would like to request Toastmasters to stop recording this.
Okay, all right, let's see. Okay, so we've talked a lot about goals that people set for themselves, but often we know that the goals we're setting for ourselves are huge sometimes. We have high aspirations to meet them, but actually attaining some of these things, like maybe going to Mars, it's a great idea. Maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. What is a goal that you have set for yourself that is just such a to the Mars goal that you may not make it, but you're still setting for yourself to accomplish? Do you have a goal like that in your life? And if so, what is it? Zaina.
So there are a number of different reasons that I read the book Unapologetically Ambitious by Shelley Ambichu that I talked about today during my speech. But one of those is that I listened to her talk at the International Women's Day about what her journey was like becoming a CEO. And I have to say, I identify as a very ambitious person. I'm excited by the idea of playing the corporate game and moving around. And I think there's a lot of possibility for creativity and for companies that are interested in making the world a better place, in addition to making money. I don't think these things necessarily have to be counter to each other. So I have an eventual goal of in my theoretical future becoming the CEO of a big company like that. And I'd be most interested in a big company. My dad runs a little company and it's a good time, but it's not the kind of scale or the kind of economic impact that I'm really looking to make. Something like Amazon being carbon free, like that has a really big impact on society, on the world, on the way that people interact with each other. It sets standards for other businesses. I would like to be a business that can set standards for other businesses, to say that we'll only pay our employees fair wages, that we are absolutely only going to work with fair trade products, and be able to make that sustainable inside of an industry. So we'll see whether or not that ends up being possible in the world of business. I'm relatively confident that I can at least move through business, whether I end up in a CEO rank or not, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay. As I mentioned, things are opening up with the world coming out of pandemic, kind of, sort of. We'll see how this goes over the next few months. Also, we're getting into what is traditionally the spring cleaning type of the year. You know, you get your taxes done, you get all your accounting together. So this is kind of the time of year on top of it in which you kind of start getting your life organized. You start thinking about your goals, what you're going to be doing in the next few months. Now that you've got, in theory, a little bit tucked away and cleaned up. For people who have been going through things and organizing and looking back on the life they had in the last few months, few years, was there something that you found in the last few weeks of organizing that you kind of forgotten and you realized you'd forgotten it, and now you're like rethinking that whole concept and wanting to put it into action again because you, like I said, you kind of forgotten about it. Does anybody have that experience recently? Or maybe in the past when they moved? Haroon.
Hi. So, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Georgie. Recently, as some of you may know, I'm a motorcyclist and I love motorcycling. Unfortunately, because I was stuck at home and not needing to commute anymore, for the last year and a half, I've not been able to ride my motorcycle. And I have sadly come to the conclusion that motorcycling is probably not in my immediate future anymore. Therefore, in the past few months, I actually held on to the idea, even though my wife recommended that I should sell my motorcycle, that I finally come to the conclusion that I am actually going to sell my motorcycle. And but what I've decided, though, instead, is that I will now be investing in a new passion of cycling. So I think that that is something that I'm aspiring to become a more fit. I do run a lot, but cycling is a sport that I've never invested time in it. It always appeared to me something as not fun and boring, but given my interest in motorcycling, I think that's going to be another enjoyable activity that I will be engaging in the next year or so. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Haroon. All right, so Mr. Mr. Toastmaster, do we have time for any additional questions?
We could probably squeeze in just one more real fast.
One more.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. All right, let's see. Okay. So is there any new way that you've come up with to improve your education? That, you know, maybe a new source of information or a new way that you are acquiring information, a new change in your schedule so that you actually have more time to improve your education that you have picked up relatively recently or like to share with the group? Maybe a tip that you've come up with? Someone who hasn't spoken yet? Uh-huh.
I think Elvira volunteered.
Elvira, go for it.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. About new ways of learning and new skills. Well, I am fond of reading books. Actually, thanks to Wayne today, I was reminded of one of the books I read last year by Daniel Kahneman, Think Fast and Slow. So I love reading the books, but only recently I realized that I can use this material I've read in the books for sharing with my readers, posters, because I'm learning how to blog, video blog, and so on. And I always seek material I can put out and for people. And I realized actually reading books, sharing the information, my opinion on that is also a good way to develop my blogging, all my experience in this area. So sharing the books are the way I understood my point of view seemed to be a great way of developing my skills as well, which I discovered recently. Thank you. Back to you, Georgie.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, and with that, I will now transition to our general evaluator to end the meeting, I guess. Haroon?
Thank you. Thank you. As a general evaluator, I'll be evaluating the entire meeting. Our meeting, as usual, we started on time and we had the roles filled up. I think one of the things that I noticed was that I got the wrong printout of the agenda, so that was my bad. I should have clicked on printed out the proper link. And one thing we might want to consider is that on our Toastmaster we have multiple copies of the agenda, so we should probably get rid of the ones, the tabs that have bugs in them. I thought that the speeches were really well done. Thank you all speakers, and the evaluations really were spot on in terms of not only providing valuable feedback, in terms of reinforcing what was right about it, but also bringing out what else the speakers could improve about their speeches. In terms of the table topics, I thought that the topics, the questions were insightful, and a lot of people actually give some very insightful answers. I do want to point out that in one of the table topics, I know that sometimes people feel very passionately about topics, but it's important to control our watch our vocabulary over there, because it is going. This does get it. Sometimes we do get that onto our YouTube. So that's something that I wanted to point out over there. But although the recording was paused for that one. All in all, a great meeting, and I love our passion and our motivation to do this week after week. So I mean, it was something that I was thinking was that we actually have 52 meetings every year, and it's always impressive to see how much energy we bring to the table here. So thank you, everybody, and I'll look forward to the next one.
You don't want to report?
Oh, yes, we do want to have reports. Sorry about that. So our first report was Wai-Ming. Timer.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I don't want to circumscribe the time that we have, but I do want to describe what time we had. Zaina spoke for 6:56, 6 minutes and 56 seconds. Georgie, 6 minutes and 34 seconds. Myself, 6 minutes and 40 seconds. In the evaluation, Louis, 2:30. Hannah, 3 minutes. Gautam, 2:50. And then table topics, Jose 109, Gautam 148, Zaina 135, Harun 128, and Elvira 120. Mr. Toastmaster.
Our next is going to be our odd counter, and odd counter, Hannah will present our odd as our odd counter.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Zaina, Georgie, I didn't hear much. Weiming, you had a couple so's or and so's. Louis, I heard 4 of you knows. I had a few myself. Gautam, I heard a couple. Harun, a couple so's and buts. Filler words like in California, we hear a lot of that, but we have which I hear from a lot of professionals as well and people in business. So just watch those filler words. Thank you.
So our next, let me just open my, our next role is grammarian. Is the grammarian. Who
All right.
is Louis?
That's me. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So as my role as grammarian, I'm supposed to take note of any improper language. And so today I didn't really notice any grammatical or improper uses of words. But also as grammarian, I note any outstanding words, quotes, sayings, or thoughts used. So for words, I like Zaina using the word fruition. It's just very nice. Weiming, cogent. I don't know what that means, but it sounded nice. And then in terms of thoughts, I really enjoyed the thoughts today. Everyone had lots of inspirational quotes and meanings and really taking a step back and evaluating life. So overall, great job, everyone. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Louis. Our next role is timer, and that is Weiming.
I just did the time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at multiple things. And do we have a joke master?
I think I have a word master report.
Oh, go ahead, Gautam, word master.
Yep. Thank you, General Evaluator. So I noticed most of us used the word. I couldn't find from Elvira and yeah, just Elvira, but everyone used the word. The word of the day today is circumscribe, restrict something within limits. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I think we are going to return control to our president, Hannah.
Thank you, Harun. And thank you, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. Before we announce, I think ballot counter, was it me or Georgie or you? I don't know who it was.
I think it was you as ballot counter.
Okay, I chatted Georgie a couple of people are also missing. Let me refresh here on responses.
I'm missing too.
Okay, so I'll put the link back in the chat and then I will have Georgie announce it if she wants to.
It doesn't matter to me. I just want to remind people that I believe this weekend is our district level speech contests. There'll be a little training also this weekend. I believe it's both days, both Saturday and Sunday. It's free to sign up. So it is interesting to see speakers who put so much effort and time into their speeches. And also, once again, these are the champion level people. So maybe you can get some tips watching these people who have, in many cases, spent a lot of time with Toastmasters. So you can maybe get some tips and tricks by watching them.
Thank you, Georgie, for that announcement. Possibly we'll have you walk through, maybe if people have time after the meeting, for the feedback that you're looking for, or the last survey that you sent on the social. So if we have a time at the end of the meeting, maybe, or after the meeting, we can do that. We'll still, actually we'll announce, because I think some people have to jump off at right at 8:30. So we'll just announce, let me just refresh here, make sure everybody voted. All right, excellent. Okay, so please give a drum roll, please. A drum roll and a round of applause to best evaluator this morning. Best evaluator, Louis, best evaluator. Give yourself a round of applause. Excellent. We have best table topics master. Please give a drum roll and a round of applause to Gautam. So Gautam, congratulations on best table topics master. You brought the fire and the energy this morning, so congratulations. And then you also were not recorded. Excellent. Best speaker this morning, please give a drum roll and a round of applause to best speaker, Zaina. So Zaina, congratulations on being the best speaker this morning. If we had ribbons or were in person, we'd hand you a ribbon and we'd take a cool little photo as a group in the front of the meeting room. But we'll take a quick photo here. Everybody look alive, and then we'll fill roles for next week. So everybody look alive once again. Awesome. Okay. Let me just save this one. And roles for next week. Does anybody want to take Toastmaster for next week? Any Toastmasters or Table Topics Masters for next week?
Does anybody want to give speeches for next week? It's always an interesting role to fill.
Let me double check who signed up.
So Hannah, I have training next week at 8 a.m., but I want to sign up as speaker for the following week, if that's okay.
Following week?
Yeah.
Louis, so that would be the 26th?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put you in there. Okay.
And for that speech, is it just a speech on any topic that I'd like, or how does that work as my second speech?
You can follow pathways, or you can like also deviate and then have your own speech. We try to do maybe a 2-to-1 ratio. So if we're going to do another topic, at least try to bring it back to pathways once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look at that. Okay.
But that's one of the benefits of signing up to be a speaker. Elvira, I know you've joined in a few times, but I don't know if you have any interest in making speeches, but we have a lot of room if you want to practice your public speaking. Thank you, Zaina. Zaina had to pop off.
I don't mind actually probably giving speeches, and I've thought for quite a lot of time about joining your club as well. The frequency of your meetings are quite high. It's like once a week. Yeah.
No, you got it.
It gives
Yeah.
impressive result. Actually, I can witness this. I see the results of members. It's a very impressive. So probably I will try, and I need to probably check out the feeds for becoming a member of your club, because I am already, but just probably.
Yeah, if you're already a Toastmaster, then yeah, there's no new member fee. And I remember when I first joined Toastmaster at another club almost 10 years ago, I had to wait 2 months to make a speech. So at this club, you can sign up to make a speech pretty much right away.
Oh, okay, right. Okay. Oh, probably I can do the speech for the next time. Just need to
yeah, you got it.
No, to know what's the fees before, I don't know, before giving the speech.
Yeah, it's prorated, but we'll calculate it out for you, so we can send that to you. I think we have. I can't remember if we have your phone number or email, but I think we have it somewhere.
Yeah, I think we do actually. I can just double check. Why don't I can sign up to give a speech next week?
Okay. Yep. So we do have rooms for speakers.
And another question is, I used to utilize EasySpeak for signing up for the roles. Do you use the same thing? I mean, the same app for signing up?
Yeah, we have
roles?
a Google form, and then all the members receive it. So they can log into the Google sheet and just type in their name if they want to sign up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could be. Oh, sorry.
I was saying I'm pretty sure that I've sent you the information, the application forms and things like that in the past, but I can't find it at the moment. Maybe if you could send me your email via chat directly to me, and I'll just send it again, just to make sure you have all the information.
Right.
And
Do
if
we have
nobody else
a,
wants to do it, I
okay.
can be table topics next week as well to fill roles. Okay, thank you, Elvira.
Thanks.
what about Toastmaster? Do we have anybody else to volunteer to be Toastmaster next week?
If no one does it, I could. I'm also a backup speaker, but yeah.
Yep. I see you on there as a backup speaker.